So by now, many of you have probably seen this build. This is the so-called Stormwolf or Tornado Werewolf, which is by many considered to be the best Druid build in the game currently. As you can see, it does a lot of damage. It's not extremely fast because you have to walk around everywhere, but the damage is pretty good. As you can see, during tier 50, Nightmare Dungeon build barrows, and the mobs die fairly quickly. Here is my build, doing the same dungeon at same tier. As you can see, the mobs die even faster, basically getting one hit. I can jump around, this build is way more mobile, and I barely take any damage here. And this is me doing the same dungeon, Blind Burrows, but at tier 75, 25 tiers higher. As you can see, the mobs still die insanely fast, basically getting one hit. Everything in front of me dies in a second. I do take a lot of damage because it's tier 75 and poison damage is quite strong, but everything gets just deleted. So this build has amazing healing, insanely high damage, and it's very tanky. The skills we will be using are Cyclone Armor, Hurricane, Blood Howl, Grizzly Rage, Storm Strike, and Shred. That's our main source of damage. All these skills will be also werewolf skills thanks to the Tempest Roar Unique Helm and legendary aspect for Grizzly Rage. So let's go over the skill tree. We pick up Storm Strike, Enhanced Storm Strike, Fierce Storm Strike. This gives us a way to apply Vulnerable if we need to. We will be mostly applying it through glyphs, but at longer fights this is very useful. We want to be casting Storm Strike every 3 seconds because it also gives us 25% damage reduction and we can have 100% uptime on this. Then we go to core skills. Here are some important passives we want to pick up. First one, Predator Instincts. This gives us 6% critical strike chance against close enemies. We are always close, and this build is all about critical strike, so we want to pick this up for sure, invest 3 points into it. The other passive is Wild Impulses. This will boost damage of our main ability, Shred, and it will cost a little bit more spirit, but we don't really care about that. Shred, it's 3 attack spell. First attack deals damage, second attack deals a bit more damage, third attack deals almost 3 times as high damage. We want to pick up Enhanced Shred as well. This will give it some healing, some extra attack speed. And we want to pick up Primal Shred. This will make the second and third cast also jump to enemies, and it will increase the critical strike damage we deal from Shred by 30%. All 3 attacks from our Shred ability will make us jump to our enemies. So as you can see, I jump once, I jump through, I jump 3 times, and this gives us amazing mobility wherever we need it. You can just jump to enemies whenever you want to. Then we make our way to defensive skills. Here we pick up Cyclone Armor. We use it mostly because of the passive, which will give us some extra damage resistance against elemental skills. We also pick up Enhanced Cyclone Armor, and we pick up Preserving Cyclone Armor. This makes it every 10 seconds, give us extra 30% damage reduction for 2 seconds. We also pick up Blood Howl. This ability is amazing. It's on short cooldown, heals us for 25% of our health. We pick up Enhanced Blood Howl, which will make it that anytime we kill an enemy, this skill is reduced by 1 second effectively making it very short cooldown. Also innate blood howl, which will make it generate 20 spirit whenever we use it. We also want to pick up these passives, Ancestral Fortitude. It increases our non-physical resistances by 15%. Right now, elemental resistances aren't good, but Blizzard said they will buff them, so in the future this should be pretty good. And we pick Vigilance. This is pretty good because it gives us 15% damage reduction for 6 seconds whenever we use defensive skills. We have 2, so we can have 100% uptime on this all the time without any problems. We skip companion skills, there isn't anything good for us, and we go to rat skills. Here are some important passives we want to take up, and Venom is the first one. This will make poisoned enemies take 30% more critical strike damage. And Toxic Claws, which will make all our werewolf skills deal 23% of their base damage as poison damage when we critically strike. We have really high critical strike chance, so basically anytime we hit an enemy they will get poisoned. We pick up Hurricane, which is also werewolf skills, so basically any enemy that walks into this will be poisoned as well. Hurricane by itself is amazing utility skill. It will slow enemies and it will also make them deal 20% less damage. So we want as high uptime on this as we can. That's why we pick Endless Tempest. As you can see, the cooldown for me is 11 seconds and the uptime is 9 seconds. So almost 90% uptime. We also pick Elemental Exposure. This will give us another way how to apply vulnerability if we need to. The ultimate we will be using is Grizzly Rage. We will be using Legendary Aspect, which makes it Werewolf skill. Also we pick up Prime Grizzly Rage, which will give us Unstoppable while Grizzly Rage is active. Basically 22 seconds uptime on Unstoppable. Pretty good. We also pick Supreme Grizzly Rage. This will give us some Fortify when we use it. And we want to pick up these 3 passives. Defensive Postures increase all Fortify we gain by 15%. Dig Height, Fortify whenever we are CC'd. Nature's Resolve, Fortify whenever we get stuck. 15% chance when we get stuck. This will give us high uptime on Fortify. The key passive we will be using is Lupin Ferocity. At first glance, these skills look very bad, but it's actually insanely good, because it's not every 6th werewolf skills that will deal critical strike and deal 70% increased damage. It's every 6th instance of damage from werewolf skills. So basically, if there are 6 enemies around us, we use Shred, hit all 6, it will proc. Same goes for Hurricane, since it's werewolf skill. If it hits 6 enemies, it will proc, giving us insanely good damage. Let me show you. Here you can see I have no stacks of Lupin Ferocity. I use it, and I have 3 stacks. I use it and it procs. It actually can proc. If it hits 6 enemies at once, it can proc during the skill. It also works for Hurricane, since it's werewolf skill. As you can see, it keeps proccing right away. I don't have to do anything. It just procs by enemies standing in our Hurricane. This will increase the damage of Shred by a large amount. We can't really control when it procs, but it procs so often we deal high damage all the time. Let's go over Spirit Boons. We will be using Wariness, 10% reduced damage from elites. We will also be using Calamity. This will extend the duration of our Grizzly Rage, which is great. We also will be using Masochist. This is amazing healing. This build is all about critical strike. Almost all our skills crit all the time, so this gives us really good healing. As you can see, I'm low. I use Hurricane, and then basically I'm getting healed to full health without really doing anything. That's how great Masochist is actually. We bond with Eagle, pick up 5% increased critical strike chance and 30% critical strike damage. You may be wondering why I'm not using Calm Before the Storm. Grizzly Rage lasts 22 seconds, the cooldown is 32 seconds, basically making the cooldown 10 seconds. At best, this proc once, making the cooldown 8 seconds, not that great, not that much value. Let's go over the items. Tempest Roar, this unique helm makes all our storm skills, werewolf skills as well. This is the bread and butter of this build. Without it, the build doesn't really work. You will have really hard time applying your Lupin Ferocity because Hurricane won't be werewolf skill. Our chest armor, we will be using another unique item, Madfall's Gleam. This is not needed for this build. You can definitely go without it. Use vigorous defensive aspect on your chest piece. Go for high defenses. It actually might be better for late game to get rid of the Madfall's Gleam because unique items have preset stats. So we can't really enchant and change anything. And basically the only defense we get here is damage reduction from enemies that are poisoned. On gloves, we will be using the Night Howler aspect. This will give our Blood Howl increase critical strike chance by 10%. On the gloves by itself, you want as high as possible critical strike chance, +4 to shred, some willpower, and storm skill cooldown reduction. This will give us a shorter cooldown on Hurricane, which, like I said, is amazing utility spell. On our pants, we will be using Aspect of Disobedience, which gives us up to 50% increased armor. This is the best defensive aspect in the game. You definitely want to run it. And on the pants itself, you want all defensive stats. As you can see, total armor, damage reduction from close enemies, damage reduction from fortify, damage reduction from distant enemies. Any type of damage reduction is good. On our boots, we will be using the Storm Shifter aspect. This gives us +2 to all skills, while Hurricane is active. All our skills are werewolf skills, so they all benefit from this. On the boots by itself, you want total armor while in werewolf form and damage reduction while injured. On our weapon, we will be using Aspect of Retaliation, which furthermore boosts the damage of our core ability, Shred, while we have Fortify. We have Fortify all the time, so this is pretty good. The stats you want are definitely vulnerable damage, that's the most important one, core skill damage, and you want to be using X because it gives damage to healthy enemies. On our offhand, we want the Aspect of Rampaging Werebeast. This gives us 10% increased critical strike damage every single second we are in Grizzly Rage. Since Grizzly Rage lasts up to 22 seconds, you can get 220 increased critical strike damage from this aspect alone. On the totem by itself, you definitely want cooldown reduction as high as possible. That's the main thing you need. That's the reason why we are not using two-handed weapon but one-handed, because we need that cooldown reduction. As you can see, I get almost 25% cooldown reduction from my totem alone. And since we have unique helm which have preset stats, it can't roll cooldown reduction. This is the only way we can get cooldown reduction. On our rings, we will be using the Direwolf's aspect. This will make Grizzly Rage a werewolf skill, so we can use all our skills during Grizzly Rage. It will also reduce the spirit cost of our skills by 50%, give us 25% movement speed. On the ring by itself, you definitely want vulnerable damage. You want critical strike chance as high possible, critical strike damage, and critical strike damage while in werewolf form. On our second ring, we want to be using the aspect of Satiated. At first look, this may not look so good, but it actually is pretty amazing, because anytime we kill enemy with Shred, our next werewolf skill will generate 30% more spirit and deal 30% increased damage. It works on Shred itself, so if we kill enemy with Shred, our next Shred will deal 30% more damage. If we use Bloodhour, it will generate additional spirit. If we use it on Hurricane, it will deal 30% more damage as well. So I just killed enemy with my Shred. My next Shred will deal 30% more damage. On our amulet, we will be using the Stormclaw aspect. This makes it that critical strikes with Shred deal 45% of the damage as lightning damage to the target itself and all surrounding enemies. This aspect is affected by all the Shred modifiers we are using and even our key passive Lupin Ferocity. That's why we put it on the amulet, to increase its effect by 50%. On the amulet itself, we want cooldown reduction, rank 2 wild impulses, and rank 2 envenom. Let's check our stats. We want critical strike chance as high as possible. As you can see, I have almost 55% with 6 extra percent against close enemies from my passive skills. If I use Bloodhowl, it goes up to 70 basically. Critical strike damage with werewolf skills, these stack together, that's 300% increase. Considering Grizzly Rage gives us another 225, we run around with critical strike damage of 500%. Let's quickly check our endgame Paragon board. We basically wanna use Exploit, Funk and Claw, Spirit, Territorial, Daunted, and Werewolf. So this is the most efficient way we can make our endgame Paragon board. We basically start here. We use Werewolf Glyph here, activate it, get the bonus, then we go up into Height and Malice. This is the second board we want to go for. Here we slot the Exploit Glyph, get as much dexterity as we can around it without sacrificing too much to furthermore boost this glyph. This glyph is the best glyph in the game, so you really want to make use of it. Then we go into the Ancestral Guidance. Here we are not picking this because when Grizzly Rage is actually active, our Shred costs only 19 spirit, so it's very hard to make use of it. Here we pick up core skill modifiers and we slot Funk and Claw. This will furthermore boost these core modifiers. We make our way into here, pick out these magic modifiers to core skill damage. We pick up the rare node here and we make our way into the Thunderstack board. Here we pick up critical strike damage modifiers. Tempest, this is critical strike damage modifiers, also vulnerable damage modifiers. Then we go back, make our way into the Hide and Malice legendary node. This node is amazing. Basically, anytime there are 3 or more enemies around us, we deal 45 increased damage. Then we make our way into the Inner Beast board. Here we pick up some extra armor, some extra damage to all our skills, and we slot the territorial glyph, which basically makes us do more damage to close targets. We take reduced damage from all close targets, and we make our way back into the Thunderstruck Paragon board. Here we pick up some vulnerable damage reduction, and we pick up some critical strike damage modifiers, and we go up and finish in Lust for Carnage. Basically, this legendary node removes all our spirit issues. You should never have a problem with spirit thanks to this node, because we have 70% critical strike damage. Almost all our damage is critical strikes. This means it will give us back some spirit. So let me show you. Let me find some enemies. I have low spirit right now. I walk into enemies and it's going up without me doing anything. And we also critically strike on all other skills. So basically we can be at high spirit all the time. We have no spirit issues at all. And the last glyph we will be using is the Undoubted glyph. This will give us more damage while we are fortified. We are fortified all the time. So this is also pretty good. Basically the only rare nodes that are not active for me are this and this. All are I'm able to activate, even the bonus. I will post the link to the full Paragon board in description. If you have any more questions, leave a comment. Thank you for watching and enjoy playing this build.